It's been a busy Premier League morning, and I don't say that as a complaint. Janusz, Michallik, you know this, because it's been a battle for the top four, and that's why today's match was so important for Manchester United, facing, of course, no simple rival in Aston Villa. In general, what did you think of Erik ten Hag's side, who got the job done with those 3 points, that goal from Bruno Fernandes, but maybe wanting that game to be over sooner rather than later?
Yeah, I think before we get a little bit deeper in the weeds, I suppose that's all that matters. 3 points, right? I mean, the race for top four is over. We know our four teams that are going to be there. Nothing's going to change for the rest of the season. And I think, given the fact that we saw that collapse away to Spurs when they absolutely dominated in the first half, 2-0, and then allowed Spurs to come back with 2 goals as well, which has been a little bit of a trend that Erik ten Hag is not happy about, right? We saw it against Sevilla in the second half away, and we've seen in some games where especially away, right? I mean, Ten Hag's going to look at that after the season, but obviously great form at home. Only lost, was it Brighton? I think one time in the beginning of the season at home. So that's superb, but I think they're going to be worried about their form away from home. However, here all that mattered was the 3 points against a very good and informed Aston Villa team, who themselves are very good on their travels. Let's not forget. So I think you could expect a tough game, couldn't you? I mean, this is Aston Villa after all, but I thought United played very well, and like you said, I think they won this over from a standpoint that United looked to me at times like they're going on fumes,
Mm.
physically and more important psychologically, because this season has been an incredible roller coaster, hasn't it? From a season where we thought it was going to be an absolute disaster, bad start, nobody thought that they were going anywhere, to Ten Hag coming in, turning things around, where they're winning a title, winning one cup already in the final of the FA Cup, and all of that. I just think that you're probably right in thinking that they just they feel probably today for sure that they've accomplished the goal of being in the Champions League, and the rebuilding starts now.
Yeah, and not bad when Sir Alex Ferguson, of course, was watching that match. As of course we've seen, they've been warm and cozy at home, as you said. It's now 15 games that they've been able to streak there at home. So at this moment, with this victory, Janusz, speaking of those Champions League, they've locked it in. But at the beginning of the match, and I want to get your perspective on this, of course, it seemed like they wanted to get that goal right off the bat, sending those long balls, being called offside. Is this the way that United needs to try to find that goal? And of course, finding their man up front in Marcus Rashford?
Well, I think it was a good tactic. I think that's what they wanted to do, because Aston Villa plays a pretty high line. They saw it immediately, right? And so they've gone back to that same well over and over. And why now? Quickly playing over the top. Marcus Rashford playing central. But I think glimpses in the first half. Jadon Sancho wasn't bad, right? I think what happened also is that, again, the disappointment of the draw against Spurs.
Yeah.
It's not just the result, but you could see that Ten Hag has made his players accountable once again, and that's a great trait that he possesses, that we keep talking about it, starting with Ronaldo and everybody else. Right? There's always a bounce after a bad result. If you look at, for the most part anyway, not always, but almost all the time. And if you remember against Spurs, some of the two players that struggled the most probably was Wan-Bissaka and an Anthony. Well, guess what happens, right? They started on the bench, and you saw Diogo Dalot, tremendous, and that, just defensively in general, but also in a way he stopped Douglas Luiz in the end, right on the line. I think Sabitzer stopped the first shot, and then Dalot, I think it was, or maybe Lenglet. I'm sorry, it might have been him, but in general, on that right hand side, Spurs had a lot of joy. He's changed that. And I think he recognized tactically that Villa are going to be playing high. So both Eriksen and in particular Bruno Fernandes have played some great through balls, great balls over the top. De Gea was looking over the top. I don't necessarily think that they wanted to score that goal as quickly as possible. I just think they recognize that you can get behind Aston Villa, especially when you have a player like Marcus Rashford.
Yeah, testing the waters. And speaking of Marcus Rashford, it seems like he left that match with a little bit of discomfort. If he doesn't have that possibility to play in the next few matches, how big of a problem can this be for Erik ten Hag?
How big of a problem? I mean, look, I want to simplify this because, as I said, I mean, the goals are achieved, right? There's only one goal. I mean, he needs to score in the FA Cup final against their city rivals, right? I'm not saying that you don't want him to score elsewhere. I'm not saying that they're going to put, sandals and be on the beach for the next few games. But I think, he's going to be scoring his goals. The issue outside of him is one that everybody knows. That's what I said, that, the job that Ten Hag has done has been unbelievable, but he understands, and everybody understands, including the fans that are watching this, is that there are a number of positions that he needs to improve, and that's one of them. And the reason I also said that, early, that they were, spent physically and psychologically, is because that Ten Hag probably realizes, and this is, this could be argued, that he
Mhm.
really has maybe 10 players that he really, really wants. That's his foundation, and he needs to build around, right? So that's a lot of rebuilding, and that's part of the reason why from time to time there are struggles. You look at, Martial comes back, as he often does, for one. He looks good for a game or two, and he's injured or out of form as well. And you could go around, and I've mentioned players like Wan-Bissaka, who looks like he's playing well, but I don't think he's trusted. And you could see that again in this game. And let's not forget the players that he's missing, right? I mean, the two center backs and all of that. So that's where that psychology and maybe the tiredness physically from that, and from the whole season, that just kind of today, I suspect that maybe a lot of these players just went,
Yeah.
we're there, because I mean, we all understand how big Champions League is. So there's going to be games. I think maybe that releases some of the players. Some of the pressure may go away in the upcoming games, and then of course will be that big final in the FA Cup.
Yeah, and Ten Hag has time, of course, to prepare that match against Manchester City. And the more victories he gets leading up to that, the more confidence and the better
Mhm.
mentality, of course, that they will have for that FA Cup final. For now, they're getting the job done, at least to stay in the top four in the Premier League.
Thank you very much for watching ESPN FC on YouTube. For more highlights, analysis, and exclusive content, be sure to subscribe.